Hey everyone, this is The Dialogue, and I'm looking at Ted Bundy, a rare interview from 1977. Now, if you don't know Ted Bundy, he is a man who was executed on death row because he murdered literally over 100 women. I think officially less than 100, but he murdered these women and raped some of them in horrific ways. So he's a disgraceful human being, or was. So Ted Bundy, good looking guy, which worked in his favour to pick up women. I've got this footage here. I'm going to show you some itty bitties that I find really interesting, considering he is a psychopath and he murdered people. He doesn't have a conscience nor empathy, but it's interesting that the body shows up differently from what he is showing up. That's just interesting. Let's have a look.
Somebody who believes he is so innocent, why was there no emotion?
People say Ted Bundy didn't show any emotion. There must be something in that. I showed emotion. You know what people said? See, you really can get violent and angry.
As you notice, he's touching his beard. That is his way of feeling irritated, touching the beard like that.
There's no
And then he's got a fist and he's still covering his mouth, so he's hiding a lot of information.
right way for me to act. Sure, I'm mad, and I'm showing emotion right now because inside I'm mad. But I've kept it together because there's no point in destroying myself. I have got to keep myself together. I have got to stay calm. I've got to keep my presence of mind, because as long as I do that, I'm going to beat you.
Notice how he shook his head then when he said he's going to beat them. His body doesn't believe what's coming out of his mouth. So he knows part of him at that point knew that he's in trouble. But he's glib, he's superficial, and that's part of being a psychopath. And so he likes to spin a yarn to fool people and dupe people, which he's done.
And that's the way I feel.
Bundy
Checking the head and touching the nose.
claimed the authorities were focusing on him rather than chasing the real killer.
I'll tell you, as long as they attempt to keep their heads in the sand about me, there's going to be people turning up in canyons, and there are going to be people being shot in Salt Lake City because the police there aren't willing to accept what I think they know, and they know that I didn't do these things. And the man who kidnapped Carol Duranch is going to continue to be free, and not only her, but every other young woman in the Salt Lake Valley is going to...
Yeah, sorry about this, guys. I tried to put the captions on, but I don't think they're going to be working, so hopefully you can pick up what he's saying.
going to be threatened by that person or persons. And it's happening today, and it's going to happen in the future.
The interview offered a chilling sign of what was to come.
I swear to God, every man in that prison at one time or another thinks about going, wishes he wasn't there, and wishes he could fly over those fences. I've dreamed about flying over those fences. I've dreamed about climbing over those fences and tunneling under those fences. With every other man in there, I've dreamed about being free.
Are you angry?
Sure, I get angry. Very, very angry and indignant. I don't like being locked up for something I didn't do, and I don't like my liberty
So there was slight contempt in his lip there that went to here,
taken away.
which is congruent.
And I don't like being treated like an animal, and I don't like people walking around and ogling me like I'm some sort of weirdo, because I'm not.
And that's what he actually thinks.
I've matured in the past year. Believe me, I've grown in the past year.
Believe me, qualifying language, which means you got to think, why did he even have to say believe me? You don't believe him.
And I've learned a lot of things about myself in the past year.
With a little grin on his face.
My only misgivings is that I might never be in a position to apply it, on the streets.
And he's glib with the smile on his face. Duping delight, really.
Where I'd like to apply it.
Interesting. So he's got his leg folded away from her. He doesn't like her, and his body's moving away. He's covering his neck with his chin down. He doesn't like what's coming from her. Maybe he hates women. Hated, I should say.
Have you ever physically harmed anyone?
Ever physically harmed anyone? No.
Did you pick up the cluster of lies being told here? Let's go back in slow-mo.
Have you ever physically harmed anyone?
Ever physically harmed anyone?
Two things going on there, guys. He repeated back the question to the interviewer. He's buying time to think his way out of this. Also, his eyes were blinking. He's under a little bit of stress with that particular question.
No.
There was pause. There was a pause where you could run a truck through. He held his eyes closed, elongated blinking or a long blink, which means he doesn't want you to see the truth. He doesn't want to see the truth either. Let's look at that one more time in normal motion.
Have you ever physically harmed anyone?
Ever physically harmed anyone? No. No. You know,
See, as you can tell, most people would not find that sincere. No, no. If you've been accused of killing people, wouldn't you get a little bit angry?
again, not in the context I think that you're speaking of.
So he's qualifying himself again. And in a way, he's trying to buy himself out of this by saying the way that you're speaking, the way that you're saying, I didn't kill anyone. So there. He thinks he's so clever.
Ted was very self-assured.
Do you ever think about the possibility of facing a firing squad?
I think I stand about as much chance of dying in front of a firing squad or in a gas chamber as you do being killed in a plane flight home.
No, his body's telling me something else. He doesn't believe that, or didn't believe it back then. Shook his head, which means it's incongruent. He touched his nose. That's almost a cluster of things that tells me he doesn't believe a word that's coming out of his own mouth.
I think I stand about as much chance of dying in front of a firing squad or in a gas chamber as you do being killed in a plane flight home.
I believe that he knew that he was going to be executed, possibly by firing squad.
Let's hope you don't.
But you don't lie
But he thinks he's clever.
awake at night thinking about it.
Not a moment. Honest to God.
Okay, if you noticed that as well, he had elongated blinking. He's trying to say he's lying. He's just basically lying. Let's have a look again.
You don't.
But you don't lie awake at night thinking about it.
Not a moment.
Not a moment. Okay, that is congruent. However, his eyes closed tell me another story. He doesn't want you to know that, yep, he thinks about it.
Honest to God.
Honest to God is a qualifying statement. You've got to think, why did he put that in there? Why did he throw that in there? No, that's one. And again, elongated closing of the eyes. Eyelids.
Because it's not going to happen.
Yeah, he knew it was going to happen.
I've been told that, the parents of these girls are fairly decent people. I don't know. And I really feel for them because apparently they suffered some
Really feel for them. One shoulder went up.
an incredible tragedy in their lives. The loss of a loved one is,
Think about getting out of here.
well, legally, sure.
Duping delight. Big time. He thinks he's so clever at that point that he's going to get off. He represented himself in court.
Weeks after this interview, Ted Bundy escaped.
Right, so he escaped. Crazy eyes. I hope you enjoyed this short video on Ted Bundy and the micro expressions that I see, as well as general body language, overall demeanor. Cheers. Please like, share and subscribe and ding my bell for future videos.